Today is Monday, August the 16th, 5 o'clock. I'm calling the BEDC to order. This evening we have a full dais, which means we also have a quorum, so we'll proceed quickly. We have many guests and we want to address them before we go into some of our other business so that they don't just have to hang out with us. But let me first ask if we have any public comments. Okay. No public comments. We're going to go straight into the open public hearing, which is 3.8. This is in consideration of a performance agreement with Mocha Ventures. It says here, for the purpose of providing the general public with information concerning a proposed economic development project being considered by the BEDC, and for receiving public input regarding same as follows, pursuant to LGC Section 505.158, the BEDC is proposing to expend Type B economic development funds to undertake and to fund a performance agreement with Mocha Ventures, Nebraska, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $900,000 for development of an office complex and campus for engineering software and additional business development and expansion in the Bastrop Business and Industrial Park. If you're following along, this would be page 72 in your packet. At this time, do we have anyone signed up? I'm just going to check with you, Angela. Anyone signed up for the comments for the public hearing? Actually, if there is anyone here.
The forms are over there. I don't know that everybody realizes that.
Okay.
Anybody want to speak? No?
We actually have quite a contingent here from Mocha Financial. And so I think it would be a great opportunity for them to come up to the podium here and give us a little bit of information about Mocha Ventures. I'm going to call it a fintech. I'm going to call it a payment processing. But if you could just give us a little bit more color on your venture and your selection of Bastrop.
Hey everybody, thanks for your time. It's a pleasure to stand up here. I've met a few of you guys before. At that time I was officially at Visa, and now I'm officially at Mocha as the president of Mocha. So thank you for our time today. Would you like to meet our team that we have here?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be kind of pleasant. I mean, a lot of these people are local here in the community. Some of them are from out of state, but why don't we start with you, Candace?
She can come up.
There we go.
Hello, everybody. Candace Bailey, SVP of Integrations, and I'm actually from Elgin. And so I've been in banking, finance for a very long time. I got the opportunity to come over to Mocha, and I'm very excited to be a part of it, and also to come to Bastrop and get to know more about you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Candace. Jen?
This is exciting. Okay, my name is Jennifer Struck, as in by lightning. I am the SVP of Client Services, so my job is to keep everyone happy. I live in Austin, and I'm lucky enough to caretake for my mom, so we're actually looking to buy in Bastrop, because we've got a lot more room. Maybe we could get a pool. I've worked with Candace Bailey for 14 years, so we've both been in banking, finance, accounting, and we pretty much do it all, and it's a real honor to be here and be in Bastrop and be with this crew. So thank you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Leighton, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Leighton Christensen. I'm the Senior Vice President of Integrations, and I'm a resident of Omaha, Nebraska, but I've been here since we started traveling back in April. I think this is my 5th trip, and so I'm trying to help the economy out in Bastrop, staying at local bed and breakfasts and visiting all the good restaurants around here. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Payne. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Mocha. This is the third company that John Burns has founded that I've been with, and I've eaten a lot at Maxine's. You can tell I've put on a little bit here, but it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Hey, Mike, come on up.
Mask rule. Hi, guys. Thanks for having us. I'm Mike Moley, Chief Sales Officer. I've got some deep roots here in Bastrop. I currently live in South Austin, but we're looking forward to bringing people in. Not only people from around the country, but we actually have developers around the world that'll be coming in. So it'll be a great little company. Thanks.
You want to tell about your aunt? Yeah, tell about your aunt. You got roots.
Yeah. Well, I had a second cousin that married Ray Long. I don't know if you guys know Ray. And so I used to spend some summers here when I was younger. My great aunt actually had a hair salon that's right across from Old Town. Up on the top, they've converted it. It was really interesting because one of the times that Sean came in a few months ago for one of our meetings, he was staying in the exact place. They turned it into a Airbnb. So the stairway that goes up the side of the building, that's the way we used to get into the hair salon. So anyway, but it's a pleasure to be here. It'll be a pleasure to get out of the hustle and bustle of Austin and get to Bastrop. Thanks.
All right, thanks you guys for the introductions there. So I'm Sean Sinner, and I'm kind of running this group here, I think. I try. Most of them I've worked with in the past, so it's putting the band back together here. We're really honored to be in Bastrop, being a small town kid myself from middle of Nebraska is where I grew up. You guys have been in this space for about 33, 34 years. Last 8 of it with a company called Visa. And then before Visa, I was with IBM and their payment side of the house. So got a good feel. Worked with John Burns for the last 15 years. He's kind of the patriarch of this, that started this. Came up with this design back in 2009. What we do is we do credit card, debit card, and prepaid processing. And you're probably scratching your head because a lot of people do that, right? But there's a big shift movement going on with a bunch of innovation. And I always like to tell a story. 20 years ago when I used to go to the Christmas party, nobody wanted to talk to me. They would walk over and say, Sean, what do you do? I'm in banking, I'm in payments. Or like, oh, okay. Walk down the hall. Today, I'm like the hot commodity. If you see all these fintechs and, you know, all the different things, virtually issuing cards and different types of alerts, and you can move money from your debit card to your debit card with no intervention anymore and all that movement stuff. And just a huge landslide of innovation that's been coming out of the camps of MasterCard and Visa and some of the big processors here in the U.S. over the last 10 years. So that's what we do, you guys. We're a company that we've invented some stuff ourselves, but we basically have developed a way to inclusively pull it all together in one big super app. And we actually go out and target community banks, community credit unions, and fintech. So ask yourself what a fintech is. I think Catherine said that earlier, right? So what a fintech is as simple as this, you guys, and I always say this, and I said this to my 85-year-old dad a couple years ago before he passed away. He goes, son, what do you do? And I said, Dad, I sell to fintechs. He goes, what's a fintech? I said, have you ever wondered, Dad, how Uber issues a credit card? Simple as that, right? Because credit cards are issued by a bank. Well, that's what a fintech is. They get the bank behind it, they get the brand behind it, they get the network behind it, so Visa, MasterCard behind it, all that litigation, all those contracts, and that's really what it is. So if you take a step back from what I just said, from what's a fintech, American Airlines has been doing that for 25 years, if you think about it. They just rebranded the name, you guys. So we compete in the fintech. We've won a couple in the last 6 months. Kelly does a really good job on our marketing team announcing that. But we chose Bastrop because of I really think it's, you guys all know this walking around the Bastrop, but when you come from outside in, there's a lot of good people here. And so this is a good place to hang our hat. We want to bring a lot of technology jobs here. Over the last 15 years, you've seen a glutton of everybody running Austin. I think Visa has its campus up on 183. We used to spend a lot of time up there. We'd like to recruit those guys and bring them here. Why not, right? To the point where we don't want to overdo it because then you got different sets of issues and problems, but we think Bastrop's a good place for us. And that's what we're here for. So thanks for your time. If you guys want any, I'm around if you guys want to ask questions. I'll just pause for a minute.
Looks like we're good.
Thank you,
Seems
guys,
like
for
we
your
have
time.
no questions here, and we have nobody signed up for any public comments. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'll close the public hearing and go to 3.9 on our agenda. Discussion and possible action on Resolution R 2021-0011, approving an amended performance agreement with Mocha Ventures Nebraska, LLC, formerly known as John Bausch Augers and Flyting, Inc., and Project Swipe. I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve Resolution R 2021-0011 as written.
Second.
All those approve?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Let the record reflect that it is passed unanimously. And you all can go out and enjoy the evening in Bastrop. Thank you. Okay, so let's see, we're not going to do, let's go ahead and go to, because I don't want Ms. Smith or Ms. Womble to have to hang out here all night. Let's go to 3.5, presentation, discussion, and possible action about partnering with the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce and Visit Bastrop to host a career fair.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. So my name is Susan Smith with Visit Bastrop, and we have some member partners that, obviously we represent the tourism industry. We have some member partners as well as businesses in town that are struggling with the workforce, should I say the lack of the available workforce. So one of our partners came to us and said, well, we would like to revinyl your billboard that you have on 75 and say, or on 71 and say, you should come and work in Bastrop. Well, the more that we thought about it, the more we thought before we do something like that, we really want to have a call to action. So what can we do other than saying, come work here, that can entice people to want to come to work here? So we started talking about myself, Becky and Janora and myself talked about it and decided maybe a career fair, but on steroids, if you will, to bring in not just for hospitality workforce, but for the business workforce as well in the area. So what we would like to do is to have this career fair, again, like on steroids, where we bring in presenters and speakers, and we have maybe prize drawings for trips or something, or incentives to give to people, give to businesses that they can hand out to people that they hire, maybe some hiring incentives. So there's a lot of brainstorming around this in terms of what we would like to do. We haven't fully vetted what the agenda is going to look like, but those are our ideas. So we'd like to hold it at the convention center, and we would, so we're looking for some financial support in order to pull this off. And in terms of marketing, our marketing will consist of joint email lists, the billboards, social media, schools and universities, online job boards, email blasts, internet ad campaigns. Visit Bastrop is willing to do much of it as we possibly can as in-kind marketing with our own marketing platform. And then we also have the billboard revinyl and then some paid marketing, social marketing that we would do as well. So that's how we intend to market it, and that is the purpose behind it. It's how it came up. We just feel that there's a real need to do something within the next 3-4 months timeframe to sort of help our businesses out in the best way that we can.
Are you going to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, on top of lucrative stimulus money that has kept people out of the workforce, we also know that 27% of school districts nationally were not in school as of last May. So there's people who have chosen to stay home and homeschool their children or do online schooling of their kids that have kept them out of the workforce. Also, during the pandemic, people were displaced. Sometimes families had to move, and you know, somebody might have to move in with another family member to save costs if they were unemployed. So there's been a lot of displacement of workers. So I think that it's better to do this sooner than later because we do have businesses who can't be open 7 days a week. You know, Gracie's for one. They've been open 7 days a week since they opened up, and they have been open like 5 days a week because they cannot find staffing. And it's not just on the server level. It's all the way up to, I can tell you stories of my board chair who went 5 months without being able to find somebody, and she has a job that pays really well in her office. So it's across the board. It's not just the low-paying jobs. And I think with more people moving into town, there's not a familiarity of what jobs are available here. So I think the more that we can do to educate people that might be looking now that school's starting and might be considering going back to work, the better. So.
And I'll just add to that the Hyatt Las Pines, which is tourism, obviously, and tourism is a specialized economic development. They could be full. They could be at full capacity with visitors and guests, but they don't have enough staff to clean the rooms. So, you know, by them not being full, that has a trickle-down effect on people that come into Bastrop and have, you know, spend their money here and do things in town while they're visiting. So we're in a dire need situation, if you will, for the workforce development, or helping get workforce.
I think every area is having the same problem. How are you going to differentiate Bastrop from Austin and things like that, and also how much money you're looking to spend?
Just with some rough figures, because again, we're still, I mean, we literally met like last week and just kind of had our initial planning meeting. I can tell you that, you know, for pipe and draping at the convention center, it's going to be around $5,000. The cost of bringing the convention center is about $2,100. Though I will tell you from doing this in 2016, as the city's contribution, they donated that to the effort because it was the chamber, it was the EDC, Workforce Solutions, and the city that went in all together with a previous council person. You know, obviously we've got some signage for if we do a billboard. There's some other just costs that would come up, but I would say a bare minimum, probably $10,000, just some initial estimates, and we can get harder numbers for you, but that would be a bare minimum.
Is that split 3 ways, or is that what you're coming to us for?
That's what we're coming to you for.
So are you guys
Yes,
putting
ma'am.
in any money?
We already have the website, and I mean, obviously there'll be a lot of staff time, and I feel like that the chamber will donate a lot of that staff time to get the website up and going, taking the registrations for the employers, and you know, things that we might do on social media. So, I mean, we can contribute. I would have to go to my board for approval for an exact number because it's not currently in my budget.
So the other question I have that, and Ron maybe was going to ask this, to Sam's point, this is certainly not unique to Bastrop. I mean,
Right.
it is a well-known problem across the board, and to your point, it's not just entry-level positions, it's across. But if you drive anywhere, you see online, we want your resume. So if they're not willing to fill out an online resume or go by for an interview, how are you going to get them to come to the convention center for a day?
I think by making it more of an educational piece, not just coming in to sit down with ABC employer in a booth for 5 minutes and filling out an application. It'll have we want to offer resume services. We want to have motivational speakers. So it's more than just coming in for 5 minutes and filling out an application.
And just the educational aspect too of making people that are here aware of what's here. Because I think that we've had so many new people move in that they may not know what is available out there in our backyard.
Is there a reason that the Workforce Commission isn't a part of the team?
Well, no, the Workforce Commission would be a part of it, yes.
Okay.
Yes. They were in 2016. They were very valuable in taking the registrations when people came in the door so we could track the people that came through for the
They
job.
just weren't listed on any of the documentation that we have.
Well, we haven't talked to them yet, but I'm sure that they will be very helpful.
So I want to address timing from two different angles here. First of all, it's an idea, and I think it's something that's needed, but it's needed everywhere. It's not unique here. But timing. So from two different aspects of timing. A symposium is more involved than a career fair, and it does take time, and it will take manpower. I can tell you right now, we're at the limit of our capacity of what we can do right now in terms of personnel. But timing, to me, I want to raise this question, has to do around the uptick of COVID. And is this the right time? Because will people be shutting down? Maybe 4 months from now it will look different. Maybe it'll look different in a good way. Maybe it'll look different in a bad time. But I think that's a very big unknown right now that is obviously directly related to this issue that I'm not sure we have an answer for, but we certainly have to take into consideration. And then just to leave you with this, I'd love to hear what success looks like for you. How would you measure success?
I think that's going to be part of our ongoing discussion as we prepare for this, but measurement of success would be maybe perhaps X amount of hires or X amount of awareness of the area and what we offer.
Have you put a survey together yet to see who would want to participate?
No,
Yeah,
no.
okay.
This is still very early steps to see if we can even move forward. And as far as the COVID question, I can tell you from a meeting standpoint that our largest meeting spaces in town have not had, have had minor, very, very, very minor cancellations of large meeting events.
Yeah, I think, though, my concern is that we're all kind of on a roller coaster ride. We were down, we were up, we could go down again, and that's the uncertainty.
Right. And that's what we deal with daily.
Do you have an idea of how many open positions that we have in the region?
I know from the Hyatt, approximately, there's about 50 the last time I looked at their job board. I don't know for whatever else is in.
But I think you need to know that, so we know by the time you put dollars in it, how many dollars per job are we really applying? You know, if it's 50 or 100, you know, do we even have a reason to pursue? The other aspect is I would hope that you address bilingual at the minimal.
Sure.
And that you have clearly Spanish programs and others to promote, you know, the whole gamut of potential employees and not just the English speaking only place.
It's a great idea.
That's a number we could probably easily get from Workforce Solutions about how many open jobs are out there. But like you said, with the Hyatt, there's a large number. I know that last Friday in our education committee, the school district's talking about 53 positions that were still open, and school starts tomorrow. So yes, we've got to do something different. So.
If the this may be a stupid question, but if the jobs are out there and sitting at 50 and 50 at the school district and the Hyatt, what are they doing, or what have they done, and how will yours be successful if theirs has not been successful? What's the tipping point there?
I wish I had the answer to that. I don't know. I know that I feel like we have to try. And I feel like we have to give it our best shot, and we have to do it differently, and we have to do it appealing from different audiences, which is the educational standpoint of, you know, how do I write a resume, having somebody proof resumes. You know, I don't have the answers to that. I really don't know. I can't speak for BISD, and in terms of the human resources portion of the Hyatt, I can't speak for that.
I would say your larger employers that are helping, they should be contributing to this as well. So, I mean, again, if you reach BISD, I would expect that the school system would be contributing resources or personnel.
We would definitely be asking for sponsorships as well.
And then after we collect those that are directly benefited, and you've got your overall budget together, then, then I think you could come back and, we could consider, what type of funding might be possible.
To answer your question, Catherine, about, I know that the school district was paying a $1,000 signing bonus, and they were doing $250 referrals, trying to get employees that are currently with the school district to refer people. So I know that those steps were taken, and the Hyatt had also done, I think, a job fair out there at the Hyatt, but I think transportation out there was a little bit of a challenge.
Just one other question. Who's going to be the point? Who's in charge?
I'll take that. Since I've spurred the idea. Better an idea than no idea, right?
Well, I think what I'm hearing, and maybe, Bill, if I'm putting words in your mouth, let me know, but what I'm hearing is we need to learn more. We need to gather more information. We need more of a plan than an idea, and then we can approach it with a better set of facts to make a better decision based off of what we think the outcome could be.
Great. Yeah, and this was very helpful with your comments, especially about bilingual, and so it helps point us in a really good direction, so thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thanks.
Where was I? That was 3-5. Okay, then we'll just go right back up to the top of the agenda. Number 3.1, approval of meeting minutes from the joint meeting with City Council on July the 12th, 2021, the regular board meeting of July 19th, 2021, and the special board meeting of July 26th, 2021. I'd like to point out maybe a clarification on the minutes on page 8, where it is an item under Main Street, and it has $50,000 for consideration and include in the budget $164,000. My recollection is that the lighting project was a separate line item, not money going directly to the Main Street. So I wanted to either put that into the infrastructure projects where it was first listed and how we discussed it. Either it go in item above it or an item below it, but I don't believe it belongs in the same paragraph with it.
Chairwoman Nash, well, the way I read it, it's other city funding request, and it's a standalone sentence. It was also agreed to add 164 to the budget for downtown lighting. Are you wanting it to?
I just want a clarification. I want to make sure that it is a separate line item that goes into our projects and is not included in the Main Street budget request.
I have another clarification on page 7. When it was the following new mission statement was agreed upon, and the quote mark starts with the mission of the Bastrop Economic. It goes to the next page. Development Corporation is. At the end of the meeting, we had concluded that whole phrase is not part of the mission statement. The quote itself would begin with, "To be a driving force to attract, support, and sustain the economic growth of the Bastrop community." And the title of the Bastrop Economic Development Commission mission statement is, and then you start your mission statement. And so we clarified at the end, but the minutes didn't capture that.
We did. Is it clarified that way on our sign? Okay, yeah.
I totally remember it being the last part of what he said, but it should say the mission statement of, so it's very clear. It was already on our website, it just didn't state that it was the mission statement, so that's what I heard. And I apologize if I misheard, it was a lot of minutes for a lot of meetings, so.
I do remember you typing it, and she did type it correctly, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it just begins with "to be." Just move the quote all the way over, and it just begins with to be a driving force. And that was the mission statement itself.
Any other amendments, corrections, clarifications on the minutes?
Move to approve the 3 sets of minutes as amended.
Second?
All those in favor? All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Acceptance of financial report provided by the City of Bastrop's Chief Financial Officer for period ending July 2021. Page 9.
I saw no issues with the financials. They all were appropriate. Everything was working well. We're bringing in more money and spending less.
It's always a good thing.
It's like, well, we could spend more if we had good projects to do it with. Okay.
So are you going to?
I make a motion to accept the financials. Second.
All those approve? Kevin seconded it. All those approve? And opposed? Passes unanimously. So, because, did someone say Corex is tuned in? We don't want to keep him all night either. So why don't we jump to Corex, since he might have better things to do with his evening. And so we are going to go to, thank you, Kevin. I can't for some reason find anything here. 3.4, discussion and possible action on Resolution R 2021-0010, authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with Corex Utilities to perform a wastewater study in Bastrop's extraterritorial jurisdiction, the ETJ, and that's on page 23. We have discussed this multiple times. I believe the one outstanding highlighted piece of information within the performance agreement is the 15-year payback. So, Jean, you want to come up and address that? And are we going to have them on screen? No? There we go.
Hey, John, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Welcome to the meeting. Yes, so the last standing item that you all had brought to our attention is trying to identify either a end date of payback or stop date, if you may. And Charlie had worked on the performance agreement with Corex, and at first we'd kind of taken it out completely. And then we've put numbers back in, and so John has now proposed a 15-year, and so that is a policy decision for you all to make this evening if you are comfortable with that date. That time frame, should I say, not date, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with it to move ahead.
It's basically 500 LUEs, to break that down just a little bit from a payback standpoint.
So I have a payback question. The way that I'm reading it, it says, after completion of construction of any wastewater facilities identified in the wastewater master plan, Corex shall reimburse BDC for the cost under this agreement per LUE after they've attached. So is 15 years enough? Is the intent? So the way I'm reading it is, it's not if an LUE attaches, it's after new construction of new facilities that haven't been designed yet, and then an LUE attaches.
John, do you want to go through that a little bit?
I think I understood the question. I believe the concept is when facilities are built that are contemplated and identified in this study, anytime a house, a building, a commercial structure, anytime a new connection is made, that triggers a payment to you. And the LUEs are spelled out in our agreement. There's a chart in there that shows you, a single family residence is 1 LUE, a duplex is 2, there's condos, apartments, hotel, motels, offices. There's all the different kinds of LUE conversions there. And so, yes, that would contemplate a payment back as connections are made to the system.
To
And
the
you would
existing
get the first
system or to
400
a new system?
I'm sorry, I was talking, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I understand the LUEs, and I understand how the LUEs are different for each of the different areas, but the way that I'm reading this is it's not a connection, it's not an LUE connection to your existing system that's in the project study area. It says that it's based on completion of new facilities that result from the study area. So the point being, if it's in the study area and we've paid for the study and someone connects to an existing wastewater lift station, do we get reimbursed for that, or do we only get reimbursed if it's a new lift station that doesn't currently exist but was built as a result of the master study plan?
I believe it is, as you described there, the latter. It is connected to any new facility that's identified in the study, not any of our existing facilities.
So I don't know if 15 years is long enough.
Because if I read it correctly, there's nothing in there that says after we finish this study, there's nothing right now that tells us what that time frame is of when you would actually build anything, should there be a need. Obviously, I mean, we're assuming there is a need, but there's nothing here that says when you're going to start, how long you think it's going to take, because you don't have it sized right now. So to the mayor's point, I mean, is 15 years enough, or should it be longer? Basically not. We need to be paid back on it, but we don't have enough information on it right now. We just don't have any time frame.
But it's only 500 LUEs. I mean, it's only $95,000. I think we've kind of boiled the ocean on this thing for 6 months. I'm just wondering, we just did a $900,000 deal with like that. We're kind of...
Yeah, and that's got a much better payback, and we have more information. There's a lot more information on the project that we just agreed to and agreed to the resolution.
I guess my point on the whole process of this is that the EDC is taking a risk, not a big risk, $95,000, to get the city and Corex and the LCRA or Aqua to kind of do an overall study on the whole area that without our help might not get done properly. So I don't look at this as an as getting our money back. I look at this as an investment in the area to try and get something done properly, because from my remembrance of it was, it's been months. Part of this was to potentially it might realign the lines of demarcation of what's
service areas.
The service areas.
Yes, sir.
Based upon the study. So I think this is like one thing that we can do as an organization to actually kind of like help the community come together. And it's less than $100,000. We've got the money. But okay, enough said.
And it seems to me like the crux of the mayor's question was what constitutes a facility? Am I right? And so does that mean a lift station? Does that mean 5 miles of sewer line? What is that?
Sure. I think it would mean any facility that's defined in our agreement. I mean, in our study. It could be a lift station. It could certainly and will be a new line. And that, Mayor, if there's a new line, even if it connects to an existing lift station or it connects to an existing plant, if that line is new, then it would be eligible for reimbursement. So treatment plants, collection system lines, lift stations, all those things would be considered new facilities. And I think that's important to note. Even if, say, a lift station or a line connects to an existing plant, it would be considered a new facility and eligible.
Thank you. That clarifies a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you.
John, one quick question. Does this include, it's hard to tell by the map how far west it goes. Does it include Double Eagle Ranch?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite understand what you said.
Does the service area include the Double Eagle Ranch that has been in the news for the
Yes,
last
the
couple
service
months?
area would include that area, yes.
Okay. And that's several hundred homes right there, right, that we're talking about?
Yes, that is in our CCN already, and we're contemplating how we're going to serve that right now. And yes, sir, I think that one would be eligible for this as well.
Okay, thank you.
It does not exist today.
No, I understand, but it's on the board. People are talking
Yes,
about it.
and really, the Double Eagle would almost complete it. I think there's 477 or 497 connections contemplated in Double Eagle, so in our section of Double Eagle. So just that one, one development alone could satisfy this.
That's
and then
that's where I was coming from, too. That's why
there's quite a few more out in this area that are being looked at right now.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I will move that we approve, what's the number? R 2021-0010.
I second.
All those approve? All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. You may be dismissed.
Thank you all.
Thank you for
accommodating me tonight. So thank you.
tuning in. Thanks. Okay, let's go to 3.3, discussion and possible action regarding the sale of the building located at 921 Main Street and leased by the Art Institute. We've talked about this a bit. We asked for a comparison between an auction and commercial real estate listing. Janora has summarized information and is going to present to us, and then we'll just kick it around and see what the best path forward is.
Good evening. I just handed you an update for auction company number 1. So if you don't mind, I wanted y'all to be able to see that before we get to it to discuss it, or to see if you have questions on any of the information that was has been presented to you tonight so far. We have
Is the highlight that you're changing on here the marketing expense that they asked us to split?
Yes.
Is that the only variation on
That
this, or
really
is there
is-
something else we're looking for?
It's giving you more detail about their process, but the original company that I spoke with is selling to another company, and the buyer is going to honor everything that I discussed with the original auction company. So in that initial discussion, what the EDC would end up paying for is 7% to the auctioneer, their fee, and closing cost, title policy. However, advertising, marketing would all be covered by the auction company. The EDC will not owe for that. So that's really the main clarification there. And what you had asked staff to do was give you a comparison of listing commercially the property or going through the auction process. So we were able to speak to a couple of auction companies and get information from them, and rather than disclose anyone's name, we've named them Auction Company 1 and Auction Company 2. We thought we were very original there, so keep it simple. And then all the process from listing with a commercial real estate agent to the closing. And I hope I made that very clear in all the information that's provided.
Surely we have some questions and robust discussion on preferences and the pros and cons of each or other. That seems the logical way, but there seems to be a lot of cash floating around these days. I'm just wondering if somebody might be interested in buying it.
I can tell you there's already interest in the building. I know Gene has received several phone calls from individuals and companies that are interested in the building. So there is a high level of interest. Gene, do you have? I've lost her. She stepped out of the room, I guess.
I know I'd be interested, I know we've got a couple of board members who have a lot more experience than I do selling commercial property and maybe even buying commercial property, and I don't have a good feeling for whether an auction or just a regular commercial listing is likely to get a better price, but I'd be really interested to hear what y'all's take is on that.
Hey, I have concerns, I guess, too. Not, maybe they're misplaced, but an auction's there's a lot of preparation and marketing, but it's a one-time thing. Correct?
It would be
As
a live
opposed-
auction and also done through simulcast, so that protects you if the weather is bad, but there's a lot of advertising and listing online with both commercial and with an auction. I've learned a lot through, because I've never dealt with an auction of property, so I've learned a lot through this process.
And we could set the
wonder how that-
reserve too, right? We can.
Yeah, that was another question. But as far as having it marketed, commercially listed, it's going to be multiple listings. It's going to be seen for a period of time, which, at least on the surface, sounds better to me. I don't know if anyone else agrees.
Well, I think one of them is that when you go through a traditional sale, like the traditional real estate marketer, generally you're looking for their expertise and them to market it at a price. Their objective is to get it sold. But at the point where you're the one kind of fixing where you think your value is, where are you comfortable walking away? And that's about what you start working on your listing price. When auctions become exciting, to speak, is when you have a high demand. And when you look at a lot of interest in something, you end up into a bidding process. It's a difficult bidding process when it's in a traditional sales, because now you can't really disclose, you're not supposed to be disclosing where the offers are and where the position is. Everyone just kind of nods their head going, well, you got to be a little better than it. That's not the way the real estate agent is supposed to be, let's say, managing that situation. So again, in an environment where you do have an aggressive list of potential buyers, then your auction could lead to a higher value overall, but you do have the reserve fallback. That's one. The second is that it's not a traditional house or home, that truly is a commercial building, and then you're leading into commercial real estate developers. So you're not really dealing necessarily with the need to finance or have financing managed by an individual. You generally have group financing by the larger entities that are buying a larger property. So the cash availability is there. In most cases, you'd be doing a cash sale. I would be a little more concerned on a real estate sale when they come back and say, yeah, but now we have to qualify for financing. And then you're going to get into things like appraisal value. And then you got contingents on appraisal values that come back and say, well, no, it only appraised for this. Even though you bid for this and you offered this, there were 6 more people that wanted it, you end up having to fight back appraisal values. And we know that appraisal values tend to track behind true values in an aggressively growing market. And so from my opinion, the way the market is at this point, I think we would have a potential for a greater value extraction from the sale as an auction. But just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Those are good points. But in light of that, are we given enough time here to get enough people interested? A month and a half. This is what I'm looking at, kind of. That's enough time.
That's 45 days is pretty much what they said, both companies.
I want to give a different point of view. I have done auctions in commercial real estate of multi-millions of dollars, and the one connotation that an auction has is that it's a distressed property, no matter if real estate is good or if real estate is bad. It has a connotation of distressed, which we do not have a distressed real estate market by any stretch. Number two, when you look at a building in that neighborhood that we're going to be, we all have an idea of what it should sell for. The real estate agent makes their money by doing the marketing and to some degree by pre-qualifying the people that are going to put in an offer for it. So while I understand what you're saying, and in some circumstances I would agree with that, in today's commercial real estate, It is very hot right now. There's a lot of money out there. I would feel much better having a little bit longer time frame of putting it out in more of a traditional real estate market environment, having only if I read it right, and if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I believe it's a 5% commission that we'd be listing versus us paying a 7% upfront for the marketing and whatnot. It would be after the fact. I think we can also, number 3, getting into potentially multiple bids on this thing because it is a new building and we have a 10-year lease on it. So I'm not a real big fan of auctions at all. So that's my 2 cents.
But is it 7% whether we sell it or not?
Well, yeah, because you got to put the money up front. You're saying there's no money on the 7% on the upfront money?
No, if the property doesn't sell, you pay nothing. If it sells, you pay 7% of the sale price plus your closing costs.
Right.
However, with the reserve price, if the reserve price is met, you are legally obligated to sell the property at the reserve price.
I mean, it seems
But you also get to set the reserve price.
Right, you set the reserve price.
You agree with your auctioneer. You know what the reserve price is. Hopefully, we're not telling what that is. It doesn't leak out. But once that's hit, if that is hit, then you must sell. You're
So, I mean,
obligated.
to me, the auctioneer, if he doesn't believe that he can get it, he's not going to sign the deal, right? But I'm just wondering whether the first thing we should do is we should put it up for auction, set the reserve. If the auctioneer agrees to that reserve, then we go with the auction, and if we don't sell it, then we can put it on the market. Okay.
Well, one thing to also take in consideration is I don't know who we've talked to as far as who would be a potential listing company, but why don't we ask them how many in today's market right now, how many commercial properties are going up for auction?
I haven't asked.
If we don't answer that question, if we don't have an idea, if you will, of how things are being sold.
Auctioneers can answer that.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that in today's market, when you look out there for what's for sale, if auctions was a mainstay way of doing it, I would probably feel better about it, but I don't think that's the truth. I don't think that's the case.
That's what's been happening on even private properties.
Right.
They're going up and up, more of the private auctions happening at the site.
They're having multiple bids, yes, not auctions.
No, they're actually doing,
That's
they're actually
essentially
doing
an auction.
straight auctions.
So
But
you
they're
want to
doing,
know
they're
how
doing straight up auctions, not street corner auctions, yeah.
So for my clarification or staff clarification, you want to know how many auctions are being conducted, how many properties are actually going up for auction?
I think it'd be a great data point to understand how many commercial buildings, new commercial buildings are going up for auction versus going a traditional real estate listing.
I think some of them can present how many are going in, how much have been above base minimum, 10% above minimum or the, what do they call it, the
Reserve.
And then they could give a rough idea of percent above reserves as just a reference point.
We would want the reserve set at a price that we're obviously happy with.
Right.
I don't know. I would think the auctioneer is going to want to see a substantial amount below that, wouldn't you? I don't know.
But I think it would be able to come and say that,
Yeah, we need to know that first. Yeah, absolutely.
I think they'd be able to come back and say X number of buildings, and then of the ones that have sold, the ones above the floor price has been, X% above it. The other part too is if we're doing a conventional, then we got to set that price, and then you got to be ready to close you got to make a decision in a couple of days. So you got an offer price. That's what I'm saying. If you know exactly the price that you want, that's where conventional real estate is really good. Conventional real estate broker is really good because you'll have that price, but then you're going to have to make that trigger point. You're not going to be able to go through a week or 2 weeks of, let's see if someone else comes in a little bit higher. You'd set that price now, and then you'd be willing to take it even if it's worth more.
Okay, but we're also going through that exact same exercise when we come up with a listing price. We've already had some semblance of talks about what we think it might list for, so to me, it's the same thing. Whether you come up with a reserve price or you come up with an appraisal, at least a CMA, competitive market analysis, that says we think it should be X. What's the difference?
You have to be able to execute on that decision. Once that offer comes in when the offer comes in a conventional real estate transaction at that amount, you're either gonna take it or not, and you move on. When you get through the auction, you know where that is, and you let it rise or not. And the risk is you don't achieve maximum value potential at the risk of a reserve. It depends on the market environment.
It's a hot market right now.
Well, and that's where auctions do much better than conventionals in most cases.
We just have a difference of opinion,
Yeah,
that's all.
that's all.
If we don't do anything, then the market might start to fizzle.
That's a possibility.
And
So-
I'm sensing that we're not going to get anywhere today.
Is it worth going through a series of steps? Number one, have Jean reach out to the people who have reached out to her. Yes or a no. Two, do an auction. Doesn't work, do the third.
Makes sense.
I think reaching out to the people that are there, that's to inform them or to try and solicit offers?
No, I think if somebody's already said they're interested in that building and we have a building for sale, then we might just sell the building.
Yeah, request that they make an offer before we
If
save
they-
on
We know what we have to have.
And no real estate fees.
Yeah.
So we do have
Sell by
multiple people that have provided interest and have continued to follow up with me, asking what the board has decided to do. And I just, please be patient, we're getting there. But another thought that could maybe kind of take a little combination of some of your thoughts that would keep it a little more internal and not make it so is working with a closed offer scenario. We could put a minimum out there. We could work with the local agent to make sure our legal language and that sort of thing from a listing aspect is appropriate. Just something to think about. That's an option that you guys haven't really talked about, but kind of a sealed bid. You know, I think we need to keep in mind that we have a really good tenant in there as well. And going through an auction process, just from a public standpoint, kind of going back to and again, my personal feelings, not that they matter, but I'm kind of on the same thought process as Ron in that scenario. I get both sides of it, but we do have a really good tenant, and our job is to be good partners with them for a very long time. And so we don't want to encourage any negative connotation there, because that building definitely is not distressed, and neither is the business. And so, you know, just some things to think about. I'm not saying that, just some things to process. But I would be happy to reach out to the four and.
Well, I think before we reach out to those four, I personally have a problem with reaching out to our friends or the people who happen to stop in the office as a basis for how we're going to sell and value that property. I'm not comfortable with that, and I think that if we're going to sell it, we do it publicly, and we do it openly, and we do it either through an agent or through a auction, but not through who walked in the door.
You know, we definitely know what our amount is that we want for it, so it's not kind of a hit or miss thing. We know what that amount is.
And that's kind of what I was going to bring up. Maybe what we do is spend a little bit of time to make sure we know what we want to ask for, whether we do an auction or whether we do a conventional, that everybody understands what it is we're trying, you know, what the bottom line is, if you will. And if we start with that, you know, then whatever's the right approach to take.
Can I clarify something really quick? And going back to your point, Bill, I was not mentioning, like, it's not, hey, you know, Joan Smith, whoever you are, come on in the door and we're gonna, I actually think that we should almost go through an interview process with some of the larger agencies and select as maybe some of the project committee or somebody like that can help us select an agency to work with that would handle that entire process for us. We're not real estate agents, and I definitely want to make sure that we are representing the EDC appropriately and legally through this process if we chose to go in some format like that.
So this isn't a question for the attorney. As I read the executive session, we can't go and, this is not listed on as one of our projects, so we can't discuss it tonight. Correct. Which is unfortunate because so we can't set a minimum tonight. We can?
Thank you. Yes, you have the opportunity to go into executive session based on the language at the top of the agenda.
Awesome.
Related to an item on the agenda, so if you want
Thank you.
consultation with attorney.
Thank
or
you very
real
much.
estate, yes.
I think, Chair, I think that might be, because I think we've got, to your point, not that we want that to be public at this time, not knowing which way we're going. I think we all have a pretty good feel for what that amount might be. And sealed bids, conventional, an auction company, whatever, if we have an opportunity to visit with our attorney in executive session, we may be able, I personally think we strike while the iron's hot. The EDC's mission is not to own real estate on Main Street, and I think that the EDC money's like blood, and it does its best when it's circulating, and as soon as that loan's paid off and that money can be, with that debt ability, get it on another project. It's an awesome building. It is a wonderful tenant, and it's a great time, in my opinion, for the BEDC to no longer be involved in that effort and let that continue in a successful manner. So that's what I would suggest.
I agree, and to Sam's point about the market, it's unlikely the real estate market will stay this hot for 6 or 12 months, and I could see this taking that long for us to just make a decision. So I think we should move forward one way or the other.
Okay, sounds good. We'll just table that and take that into an executive session.
Thank you.
Do we want to do an executive before we do the budget? What do you think, Sam? All right, we're going to knock out the budget. 3.6, discussion and possible action regarding BEDC's proposed budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, including action to modify the proposed budget and to adopt the FY 2022 budget as proposed or modified, page 41.
I'm going to let you do the clicker. Angela, this is going to be a tag team. Angela is going to move slides forward. And we're going to start with revenues. I think it's, if we start on the second page, revenues, we can go through unless you have a preference, Madam Chair.
No, that's however you want to tackle it.
And really what Angela's done, staff highlighted where there are changes. If you recall, under Project Fiesta, they originally looked at a smaller property in the industrial park that the value was $121,065. That project has grown. It now is looking at a property in the park that is double the original property, and that's the difference in the $233,935. That's where that number came from, because it's a much larger project now. And then there was a grant that we were supposed to have received and did not, because the Art Foundry actually purchased what was the old Dig Tech property. And so we did not receive the grant for that, and that fund, then that money was added back into the budget. Do you have any other questions about revenues? Then under administration.
Just one thing on the million five, I think it is.
I'm sorry.
Just one point on the $1.5 million. I think Tracy also brought this up when we were talking about the budget, is when we do get that money, because at least the $900,000, the way the agreement's worded, because we will pay it back if they perform, we should put that cash in a reserve account so that we don't spend it.
Usually it goes into an escrow account.
It usually goes into an escrow account.
I don't know if we've ever done that before, but it's usually restricted cash.
It's a line
Yeah,
item.
it's restricted
Yeah.
cash.
And under administration, there are those things highlighted in blue are for budgeting for one half year to hire 2 additional staff members for fiscal year 2022 or in fiscal year 2022. These numbers actually came from the HR department and finance departments at the city.
Yeah, so they're kind of estimates. They really don't know exactly and I don't think we do either, exactly the skill level and the price that's going to happen, so that once we actually get to the point of knowing what we're going to hire, then we'll probably have to go through a budget amendment for that process.
And staff is already working on descriptions, doing the research so that we can bring those to the board to consider.
So that budget, just for everybody's awareness, means that we're fully staffed plus 2 people by the end of next year.
Under operations.
So upon final review of our projections in particular, I realized that some of the numbers had either updated or perhaps were missed the first time around. So anything in just a simple yellow and it says at the bottom, adjusted after final review, that's what those are. They just have changed since the last time you saw the budget.
Yeah, only in the description on page 47, it talks about 921 Main Street expenses. This is where the NNN expenses for 921 Main Street have been placed, insurance and maintenance. Just to clear it up, I would just clear out whatever NNN is sitting in that description.
Can you describe that?
Yeah, just put the amount in, or do away with NNN and just say it's the insurance and maintenance. It's just, it's just dying for something to fill in the blank.
So the normal NNN doesn't really apply here. Number one, we don't have any shared space, right? Number two, they're tax exempt. We determined today they have not received that yet, but it is in process. I know you had a question about that, Sam, so I just wanted to update you on that. We do need to go back before you depart and go through that contract and figure out what we expect. Not dearly depart, just leave. We need to figure out what the estimated OpEx will be next year, because that's the way the contract reads at the end of the calendar year.
Yep. Other questions, comments? So under marketing and advertising, just want to point out that the website with Golden Shovel will now be paid through digital marketing and advertising rather than under professional services. When you contracted with them to build the site, it was contracted under professional services. Now that it's up and running, that will be digital marketing. Under city projects and services, there is a
We missed professional services.
did I miss it? Oh, professional services, I'm sorry.
So at the board's request, we didn't think we would expend the $94,300 for the CORIC study in the current fiscal year, so we moved it to the next fiscal year under professional services. And again, there are some adjustments there highlighted in yellow.
Any questions? Do what?
We didn't just spend that 94,000.
We approved it, but they haven't spent it yet.
Right, but I don't know. I don't think it'll get to that.
Timing is everything.
You're right.
Not going to happen.
That's not written in stone, so we can change that if necessary.
September, anyway. Yeah, well, October 1 is the new year, so yeah, it's not going to get done.
Yeah.
It roll over.
So under city projects and services, highlighted in yellow is the Main Street project or program, and that's really contingent upon executing a new agreement. You are currently under a 2-year agreement. That will expire in September, so that needs to be renegotiated or re-upped, or however the board chooses to address that. And then they're highlighted in blue under the 2022 budget are the projects that were requested by the city of Bastrop.
Ms. Young, I thought when we did our joint meeting, and when we had our workshop, I thought you were are you gonna work with the city manager and bring us something to look at for the new contract agreement? Because
I did meet with the city manager and with Ms. Gleason last week, and we had a good conversation over what is currently in the budget. I just need some clarification from the board on if you want to renew the existing contract or if you want more specific. That was some of the discussion, was the specifics of how the funding is spent, whether it's broken out into specific line items. So I need direction from the board on how y'all want to do that.
And that was also include updates, that we had updates back from the Main Street project, periodic
Yes,
updates,
and we
so
did
knew
talk
what they
about
were
that,
doing.
and Ms. Gleason is happy to come to the board at any time, and we are more than happy to invite her to give updates on what they're doing. It's a very busy Main Street program, from my understanding and from looking at it. And as past Main Street manager for 2 different cities, I can tell you that the Main Street program is a very robust and very broad-based economic development program. The majority of what they do, it does address economic development from their it's a 4-point approach of organization, promotions, marketing, economic vitality, and design. And it is a very thorough program. So I think it behooves us all when there is a strong partnership between the EDC and the Main Street program.
I don't question the $50,000, but of course, I do want to know where the money's going to be spent. If you ever you've done Main Street programs before, have you ever run into a situation where the money got kicked back because it wasn't legal, so to speak, and it wasn't spent in the right way?
Not so much that it was kicked back, but I can give you a very specific program or project that when I was in Fort Stockton, there was a binational convention between Mexico and the United States, which was held in Fort Stockton at the same time that it was homecoming for the high school. And because it was a historic district, we contracted for a laser light show in the downtown area to be held in conjunction with the homecoming parade. And instead of having the homecoming parade go to the high school, we brought it downtown around the courthouse where the laser light show could be outside, and the historic buildings were used. And I did approach the Economic Development Board for funding for a portion of that, and the way we could make that fit under the sections of the statute was there were visiting dignitaries from Mexico, and there were Tarahumara Indians visiting from Mexico that had a booth at the convention. We were able to incorporate advertising in the laser light show as part of the laser light show and part of the binational convention, and therefore we were able to allow the funding from the EDC to help fund something that probably would otherwise not have been a legal expenditure. But it took a lot of research and a lot of time to make sure that it fit within the statute, and we did that through promoting the binational convention and bringing attendees from the convention down into the park. And I believe we had about 7,000 people. It was probably the largest homecoming parade any small community has ever seen, but it was a legal use of EDC funds to promote a Main Street project. But we had to be very careful. It took us weeks to explain it.
But I think the point we're trying to make is that it's projects, right? It's not an allocation. And one of the things I heard from Paul, I think I heard from Paul in the workshop, was that a lot of the salaries were allocated to Main Street, and I just want to make sure that we're signing up for specific projects, not an allocation of salaries in the $50,000.
Okay.
Tangible.
Tangible's not yet.
Yeah, we're looking for tangible project allocation.
And qualified projects?
Yep.
Okay.
Because, I mean, that's, you know, you can easily report on that because you made a payment for that.
Okay.
A check or a, yeah.
Yeah, not just 50,000 open budget
Right.
for the Main Street.
I just want to make sure it doesn't be just an allocated amount that we keep paying.
So you covered the first chapter of the training before the meeting today? Referring to this project, and it has to be specific, our current training. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you have to be very careful of, or at least as I understand it, you have to look at the origin of tax dollars, where they came from. You can't commingle hotel motel tax with other funding. And when it comes to EDC funds, we have to know that when we expend those funds or invest those funds, that they are spent on qualified, under the statute, qualified measures and sections of the statute. So it's not a case of you can put it in a fund and say, okay, now you can spend it any way you want to. And the attorney's here, she can agree or disagree with me, but you have to look at the origin of the tax dollar, of a public dollar, where it started, not where it's, you have to make sure you follow the money from origin to expenditure and that it stays within the statute, if that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions? And I just need clarification. You want me to bring a contract back to you with those specific things at your next meeting? Okay. So, projects, programs, and grants, Angela?
Okay, she's got it. Okay, I believe it was at the strategic planning meeting. We determined that we didn't think we were going to get the final payment paid out to Project Gummy Bears this fiscal year, so we've moved that $175,000 to next fiscal year. If you receive in a certain amount of money for payment on property in the industrial park, you also have to budget for the expenditure of the rebate, so that's been changed. And then, again, the yellow is just some things that were caught on final review. You're ready for infrastructure? Yes,
So
sir.
I noticed swipe is in at 22, 23 now as an expenditure, but I mean, that's clearly not going to happen in 22, 23. We're just going to keep kicking it down the road until we pay it, and if that's so, that's fine.
We still don't have the survey yet, and the survey has to be done for the replat, so we've
Well, I'm
only got.
talking about the 900K.
Well,
Yeah, I think that was her point, was that,
Yeah.
because
Right.
We're not gonna try to
you have it
estimate,
coming
okay, let's
back,
put
you
it
just-
in
You just have to put it
25.
in your budget process that we're paying it back, so that, so your cash looks good.
correct. Depending on the timing of the execution of the agreement, it could very well end up in the following fiscal year. But just to make sure we're keeping it in this budget,
Yeah.
we're putting it there.
Okay.
Okay?
Fine.
Everybody ready for infrastructure? Okay. So I had budgeted the entire amount that we have left for the MLK infrastructure and the extension on technology, but that was a boo-boo. I was supposed to deduct the amount that was left over from the 2013 bond, $283,000 or so. So that will be expended first, and then the 1.5 will come out of reserves. The Art Institute payment was received into miscellaneous income instead of the project line item, so I took care of that, moved it over. Okay. We really didn't have any changes under debt service or miscellaneous contingency. So the final one will be working capital. That is Sam's baby. It should reflect everything. If I didn't break the formula, Sam, it should be updated according to all the other changes that were made throughout the spreadsheet. And if Sam's okay with it, I'm tickled to death.
The whole concept is just to show how much cash you have at the end of the budget cycle.
So
And that's page 70, right? If you move along up 2 more pages to 70? So on that one, we just got to get the titles on them. So we know what year is which column.
Oh, okay. Well, let's ask Sam.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I literally took what he sent me and formatted it to. I'll work with Sam to get that taken care of, and if he's happy with it, are y'all happy with it? Because, okay.
Yeah, the numbers work out.
Yeah, go ahead.
It just took a while to find them, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. It didn't even occur to me. The budget will be sent over to the city of Bastrop to be included in their budget that will go to council, 2 readings in September. So tonight, we need it approved and ready to go, either with or without any last-minute changes.
I make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
I second the motion.
All those approve? Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's been Sam and staff and Janora. It's been a lot of work. Thank you. Where am I again? I think we're ready to go into, oh, let's do the 3.7. Let's do our quick review of what's been going on. Receive updates from BEDC staff, EDA, Economic Development Administration, webinars through CAPCOB, Capital Area Council of Governments, Regional Broadband Roundtable, CAEDD, Capital Area Economic Development District, quarterly meeting, bi-weekly meeting with the city, RSET, Association of Rural Communities in Texas, and continued participation in Bastrop Development Review Committee meetings. How do y'all have time to do any budgets and other work? You're always in meetings.
Well, actually, it's pretty short and sweet. Unfortunately and sadly, COVID is changing how we're having meetings again. So I can tell you the EDA, Economic Development Administration, there were 3 webinars through CAPCOG. 2 of those I actually logged on, but we had prospects in the office and phone calls, so I will go back and watch those 2 recorded. I was able to sit through and participate in the one about Know the NOFAs, or notifications of funding that is available through the Rescue Act. And so we have a list of those. The regional roundtable was supposed to have taken place on the 12th in Austin. That has been postponed until October because of COVID. And then I was very excited about attending my first quarterly meeting with the Capital Area Economic Development District. That is now going to be a virtual meeting this Friday. I'm looking forward to it with excitement, but I certainly would like to have been in the room. I personally believe we're in the people business, and it always makes it nice when you can be in the room when you're working with folks. But I'm glad to see they didn't move that one, and we'll still have the meeting on Friday. And then we held the first bi-weekly meeting with the city manager and the assistant city manager. Jean and I attended that last week. I look forward to continuing those meetings and building a relationship and strengthening the relationship with the city. And on the Association of Rural Communities in Texas, at one time, this organization, EDC, was a member of ARCIT, and I've asked that we renew that membership, and I would like to let you all know their annual conference is we're still planning on having it. I actually sit on the board for ARCIT, and ARCIT's focus is all on rural needs. We focus strictly on rural needs. There's a newsletter that you get every month from ARCIT. They keep us updated on legislative issues that address the needs of rural communities. And their annual conference is this September, the 28th through the 30th in Lakeway. And I would ask that every board member consider and council member consider attending that, because the city of Bastrop is a member of ARCIT, and hopefully Bastrop EDC will soon be renew their membership with ARCIT. And then finally, we continue to have Mr. Plunkett and I continue to attend the Development Review Committee meetings with the staff. I'm learning a lot there in the process of how the staff works with projects. And then I've been able to attend some of the afternoon Development Review Committee meetings, which are specific to projects, and I actually get to meet some of the project developers, and some of those at some point we will be bringing EDC projects, and I've sat in on a couple of those where we brought them before the staff. So it's been an educational process, and one I look forward to continuing. Do y'all have any questions for me?
No, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd like to thank Angela and Jean for all their assistance with all of the things that we do in the office and creating a team BEDC. I want to thank them.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to be going into executive session, 4.1, the BEDC. Bastrop Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. 1, Sections 551.072 and 551.87, deliberation regarding the commercial or financial information, as well as the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property received on projects Walk of Fame, South 40, Super Glue, and Fiesta.
And you might want to add and 921 Main.
And 921 Main. Section 552, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding lawsuit filed by former Chief Executive Officer Cox against the Bastrop EDC. 3, Section 551.074, personnel matters, discussion on Chief Executive Officer position, and the time is 6:20. It's 6:27. All right, we are reconvening into our regular session. It's 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. At this time, we have no action to take on any more items, so therefore I'm going to entertain a
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We're done.